Welcome, everybody. I'm Kate Gordon from California Forward. It's so great to see everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today and for coming to the summit. For those of you who are here for our big economic summit, started earlier today. California Forward, as I hope you know, is a statewide organization dedicated to supporting every region across this great and diverse state of ours in building a more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive economy. This economic summit, this is our 14th annual economic summit, and this is our annual time to come together to share successes and failures, to learn from each other, and to reimagine a better future. We're so excited to partner with Zócalo Public Square and the Arizona State University for our opening day program. I am particularly excited about this upcoming panel, and pleased right now to introduce Dulce Vasquez from ASU. Dulce.
Thank you, Kate. I'm Dulce Vasquez. I'm Assistant Vice President for Arizona State University here in California. We are a California university enabling the next generation of innovators to thrive. In the heart of downtown Los Angeles, we have two locations where we feature top-ranked undergraduate and graduate degree programs, from the Sidney Poitier New American Film School to ASU FITM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, to our Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications, the W.P. Carey School of Business, and more. We have over 104,000 alumni here in California. They are leaders, they're entrepreneurs, business owners. They span hundreds of industries that include fashion, film, journalism, and more. And we are committed to producing top talent, connecting students to high-demand jobs and internships throughout the state and the world. It's an honor to be here supporting the California Economic Summit and our partners at California Forward. I'll now turn it over to Nick Yang from Zócalo Public Square.
All right, thank you, Dulce. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all, and thank you for being here. I'm Nick Yang, and I'm the Digital Communications Coordinator here at Zócalo Public Square, a unit of Arizona State University Media Enterprise. At Zócalo, our mission is to connect people to ideas and to each other. Everything we do is free, and everyone is welcome. We publish original writing and present conversations like this one. You can find us at zocalopublicsquare.org, on podcast platforms, and YouTube. So please subscribe for our latest programs. We were founded in 2003 and are now celebrating our 22nd birthday year. Tonight's program is part of Zócalo's series, California 175, What Connects California? On the 175th anniversary of California statehood, Zócalo Public Square presents a suite of free public programs across the state, bringing together leaders and thinkers from all walks of life to envision California's next 175 years. Our program today is about the creative economy and asks, is hip-hop America's biggest success story? We're pleased to co-present this program with California Forward, Arizona State University, and Stocktonia as part of the California Economic Summit. I'll now introduce our moderator. Taj Frazier is an award-winning writer, University of Southern California professor, arts and humanities curator, and producer of docuseries and documentary film. He is the host of two PBS productions, Hip Hop and the Metaverse, and Outside the Lyrics, and the author of multiple books, including Chaos Theory, The Afro-Cosmic Arc of Ben Caldwell. He is also the director of IDEA, the Institute for Difference and Empowerment in the Arts at USC Annenberg, a media, arts, and culture-driven center that facilitates interdisciplinary education, research, programming, and cultural productions. Over to you, Taj.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Robeson Taj Frazier. I'm a scholar of media arts and Black expressive cultures, and I'm the moderator for today. And very, very fortunate to be able to introduce our two guests for this conversation. Tara DeVeaux is CEO of BCG Worldwide, Burrell Communications Group, the first Black-owned agency network. Tara joined Burrell based on her belief that Black culture drives popular culture. And the ad industry is rooted in a bygone era where multicultural agencies are sitting in the back of the proverbial bus. Prior to BCG, Tara was CMO of Wildcard Entertainment Group, where she launched campaigns for Super Mario Bros. Movie, The Handmaid's Tale, and Insecure. Tara also forged relationships with brands including Barbie, Adidas, and Corona. Tara joined Wildcard from BBDO New York, where she was CMO, leading new business efforts, and won more than $40 million in new revenue. Can we all give her a hand? Our second guest is Detavio Samuels, who's the CEO of Offscript Worldwide and its flagship brand, Revolt, a creator ecosystem and multimedia powerhouse shaping global culture. Since 2021, he has expanded Revolt into a multi-platform leader, reaching more than 50 million millennial and Gen Z viewers, and launched signature experiences like Revolt World. Through Offscript, he has built vertically integrated networks across sports, music, and gaming, pioneering an ownership-first model for creators. Recognized with honors including Adweek's Brand Leader of the Year and DigiDay's TV Executive of the Year, Samuel stands at the forefront of culture, media, and business. And as a steward of hip-hop, he champions its power as both a cultural movement and an economic engine. Let's give him a hand. Thank you both for joining us. I also want to thank our audience for being with us today and give a special shout out to the city of Stockton, where we are, so give Stockton some love. Stockton has a long, rich history, especially a rich history in terms of hip-hop, which I think it's important to acknowledge at the forefront. And Zócalo has a great piece about Stockton hip-hop by Tamar Brisbane, which you can all read on their platform, which I would really encourage you to read, all right? And I think is that you in the front? Oh, fantastic. Well, let's give her a hand. I would encourage you all to read her piece. It's a fantastic piece about Stockton and its history. I'd like to remind our audience that we'll be taking questions at the end of our conversation. If you'd like to ask a question, we'll have a microphone to the right of the stage. You may also text questions to the number, which you'll find, I guess, on your wristband. If you're watching online, you can also submit questions to the live chat on YouTube. So with that, we will start. Now, actually, to begin, the topic of today's conversation is hip-hop America's biggest success story? I was talking with Tara about this at the start, and she was just telling me a little bit about her work. And anyway, she has a great story. I think that would be a great way of kind of introducing us to our conversation today.
Yeah, I was saying to Taj that whenever I am doing one of these kind of talks, I always go to an LLM, sometimes Copilot, sometimes ChatGPT, to just ask them the question, kind of, what is it, whatever the topic is. So I did that for this and asked, is hip-hop America's greatest success story? And here's what I got. I think you might be surprised. From the burned-out Bronx to billion-dollar boardrooms, hip-hop embodies the full arc of the American dream. Born in adversity, global in reach, entrepreneurial in spirit, and endlessly adaptive. No other cultural force has produced billionaires from nothing, rewired global pop culture, reframed identity as enterprise, and reversed the direction of influence from the streets outward. So yes, hip-hop may well be America's greatest success story, a movement that turned art into an economy, rebellion into leadership, and culture into global power.
Yeah, if it was in my class, ChatGPT might get an A this time. All right, so there's ChatGPT's answer to the question, and we're really excited to hear from you all, your perspective, your vantage point. Hip-hop and Black creative culture's impact on global culture is honestly hard to miss. The evidence is everywhere, sometimes in places, spaces where I wouldn't expect it. Nelly with a, Honey Nut Cheerios commercial, Old Navy ads. But the level at which you all experience it, and really moreover help to platform it and position it, is especially unique and really at a different vantage point than most of us here in this room. So I'm interested if you all can talk a little bit about your relationship to hip-hop, and as well, about hip-hop's impact and reach from your specific vantage point as an executive.
Should I go first?
Sure.
Okay, ladies first. Yeah. This was a really interesting topic for me, and we talked a little bit about this because hip-hop is more personal for me as, you know, a Gen Xer. Like, I remember being, you know, the beginnings of hip hop. And so in many times I had to actually think, it's why I went to ChatGPT, because I had to think about the impact because it is so personal. And I think for many Black people, my generation, my children's generation, it is personal, you know, and I had to think about what the academic kind of relevance is. I think as a brand marketer, it has completely, hip hop has completely shifted the culture. I work at an agency, run an agency that was founded 54 years ago, pre-hip hop, at a time where the world was very bifurcated. Black, you know, it was a black world, white world, no one else mattered really, and never did those twains meet. And I think because of the birth of hip hop, our culture has been exported and has become popular culture. And so many of the conversations that I have with brands now is how do they connect to the culture in a very authentic way without being exploitative? Because I think I've seen a lot of those brands that have done that and that feel like you're taking more than you're giving. And I think that to me is one of the downsides of hip hop as a culture, is that oftentimes the people who created the culture are not reaping the benefits of the culture.
Yeah, I don't have, my answer is going to sound pretty similar. When I hear the question, I thought I had two thoughts. The one that was, you know, what is my relationship to hip hop? Hip hop made me. It gave birth to me. The way that I walk, the way that I talk, the way that I look, the way that I move, the way that I dress, like hip hop made me. And if you talk to 15-year-old Detavio, 19-year-old Detavio about where they wanted to be, it was exactly in a space like this, running a media brand that was driven by hip hop culture and the ability and the opportunity to be a participant and a leader in that space. So hip hop made me. And the second answer I was going to go, what is my vantage point? Hip hop made us. It's present in everything. You see it from fashion houses calling in Pharrell, A$AP Rocky, what's my man from Off-White that's gone? Virgil Abloh, right? When you look at music influences, it's influencing everything from freaking country to K-pop. You know what I mean? The way that we talk, every time you hear someone say lit or no cap, or it's literally hip-hop made us. And you said it, it's literally America's greatest export. And then from my vantage point and from my seat, I see exactly the same way that you are. It is, yet again, Black people have created a massive multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry without being able to truly benefit from the economics of that creation. And that's one of the biggest things that I want to try to help resolve.
Now, like you said, hip hop, you said it made, like you said, it made us, it made me. I think about what I do for a living and how much of hip hop shapes how I approach it, how I facilitate discussions. But I want to ask you all, the hip hop that made us and that shaped us is different in many ways than hip hop creative culture of today. And how it shows up in commerce, art, industry is different today, significantly than what it was, I'm sure, for instance, when you all started out in your particular industries. And so I'm interested, how have your approaches changed, you know? And also thinking about your respective companies. So like you said, Burrell Company is 50 plus years operating, which is incredible, right? Revolt, I think just today celebrates its 12-year, right, kind of anniversary. So from you all's, like, you're with a company that's to some degree like a legacy company and another company that's going to be, but moving in the direction. I want to know, how has your approach changed, as well as how are your companies adapting to this change? And how are you guys approaching change, I guess, per se, and broadly, but as well, obviously, in terms of distribution, audience, how are you guys navigating this kind of changing ecosphere?
I joined Burrell 2 years ago because of that shift. I joined this agency that has been historically Black-owned and Black-targeted. And in this business, it means Black people talking to Black people. And that is what this agency has been for 54 years, or had been for 54 years. I joined because I felt that as a people, Black people, are the catalyst for much of what happens in popular culture. And yet, Black agencies do not get the opportunities to speak to folks beyond ourselves. So in the advertising world, Black agencies talk to Black people, Hispanic agencies talk to Hispanic people, and Asian agencies talk to their people, but yet white people can talk to everybody. And I just reject that notion. And so I decided that I was going to do something about it. And I was going to join an agency that really enabled me, and by me, I mean we, to really sit firmly in our power. Because I think that everyone else recognizes our power, we don't always recognize our power. I think a lot of what was happening in the world now, as we were talking about, is because of our power. And so I wanted to be, and I felt that it was an honor for me to be someone who kind of takes this company into the next generation and begins to obliterate terms that have been used to segregate us. General market, euphemism for white. We're not a part of that, multicultural only means, that's kind of putting us in the back of the bus, as my kind of bio said. And so for me, I think that is the spirit of what hip hop has meant to me. There's a spirit of rebellion. There's a spirit of, remixing, remaking things. And that's what we are trying to do at Burrell.
Yeah, when I think about how my approach has probably shifted or changed, the way that I would say it is that in the same way that hip-hop dominated the audio space, the #1 music listened to globally, again, all of the things that we just talked about before, in the same way it dominated audio, I believe that it will dominate the video space. And so that is why it's two things that drive the hypothesis behind the business that I'm building. And the same way that hip-hop dominated audio to dominate video, and I believe that creator media is bigger than traditional media. Those two things form the hypothesis for... What is going on? Those two things form the hypothesis for the business that I'm building. It is all about finding the dopest creators, the dopest voices in hip-hop, and putting them on a platform to take it to the moon, to have global impact. We have had the honor of working with some of the best voices in the game. One of them, my friend, your Vice Mayor, Jason Lee. Let me give you a round of applause. Thank you for being here, brother. From working with the Jason Lees to the Cam'rons to the Drink Champs to the Carishas to the you name it, it is all about giving them the platform, amplifying their voices, and allowing them to build what I believe is truly the future of media. And then while we're doing that, the piece that I want to make sure that we get right is, unlike those who use hip-hop voices to build the billion-dollar, trillion-dollar industry before, to the conversation we keep having here, my goal is to make sure that these people get to benefit from the economics of their genius. That is a very difficult job. It is a very difficult thing to do in this world where it's pretty difficult to monetize content, right? You think about social media where people are getting pennies. You think about YouTube, who I love. It's one of our biggest bets, but they take 50% of the money, right? It's a very difficult thing to do, but it is all about how do you see the future, creator media, hip hop, let's build that, while making sure that those people that you're partnering with to build get to benefit from the economics of the thing that you're building together.
I love that we are on this stage together, and because I think that accountability is so intrinsic to the reason why both of us are doing what we're doing, right? And how do we be accountable, of course, to the employees and all of that stuff, but how do we be accountable to the culture and give back to the culture that inspires us on a daily basis? And I think it's that give back that hasn't always happened. It has been a very much a one-way relationship. And so, in our mind, there are creators, influencers that inspire us daily, that their work gets fed into our work. And how do we make sure that we're platforming them, that we're promoting them, that we're putting money in their pocket, that they are not just in front of the camera, they're behind the camera at all costs,
1,000%.
That feeds right into my next question, which builds on this point you both have been making. Tara, you've talked about and pointed out how hip-hop, Black creative culture's ethos, how it's been adopted in industries and among publics that don't always have a deep or historical record of investment in the issues and communities that have shaped the culture. You each have talked about this contradiction, right? There's a kind of ongoing desire for hip-hop, Black expression without actual Black and brown people being involved or Black and brown businesses actually leading and stewarding. And so I wanted to ask you, and how do we combat this? How do we cultivate alternative paradigms? I feel like both of you are doing so in really vibrant, different ways. One of the things that immediately comes to mind for me, Tara, which I hope you will speak a bit about, is the Burrell's cultural compass as a kind of disruption model within marketing, and as well, I'm hoping, Detavio, you can talk a little bit about what you guys have done with off script as a different kind of model of not even a media company anymore, but like moving into a different lane for the future. If you both can talk about that as kind of a model of disruption.
Yeah. Well, I would say first, the disenfranchisement of creators that actually build something is a legacy that is a legacy of this country, right? It's pattern theory, where you have marginalized groups that create something, the thing they create becomes mainstream, they're then left out of really reaping the rewards of that thing that they have created. And so, I think that knowing that, recognizing that, for me, it was how do we now break out of that? How do we begin to, as an agency that is focused on building a network of other agencies that are like-minded, how do we actually begin to talk to brands, and really, when I say brands, people, right? The people that are at brands, and kind of get them to recognize the power of this audience. The way we have done it is by actually focusing on people. And certainly we are Black-owned and Black-centered, but we recognize the power of being able to talk to everybody. We look at Blackness as our superpower. Because we are Black, we are, just by virtue of being Black and somewhat successful, you have to have been able to navigate every room. You have to be able to have understood everyone else. And so we've invested in research that actually dissects this country and talks about what the role of race is in identity. It is not, we have many clients that come to us and they say, we want to talk to Black women 29 to 34, as if all those people think the same, act the same, are motivated to act in the same way. And so we have really dissected the world in, or at least this country, in a way that has people, targets people based on how they identify and how that identity motivates them to buy. And it's not all race-based. It's not all gender-based. And so we've had conversations with clients, and it's enabled us to open the aperture on the kind of work that we're doing. We're not just doing Black-targeted work. We're doing work that is Black-influenced, but actually reaches everyone.
Okay, so one of the things that Tara and I are doing is I think we're going back and forth between Black culture and hip-hop culture. So I just want to acknowledge that thing. But to me, it's because they're so interwoven. All of Black culture is not hip-hop culture, but so much of hip-hop culture is birthed and born out of Black culture. And
brown culture.
And brown culture,
yes,
for sure,
absolutely.
Black and brown. And so that takes me to one of my favorite quotes by Martin Luther King. I think it's Martin Luther King. Let's see if I get it right. The world loves our rhythm, but they hate our blues. Y'all know that quote? That is how I feel like this world and this country has treated the creators of hip-hop culture and Black culture. They love the culture. They'll listen to the music. They'll wear the clothes. They'll talk the slang. But when it comes to supporting the creators of that culture and trying to dismantle the systems that have oppressed them, they either ignore it or, even worse, they uplift it. right? So then the question becomes, so then what are we doing at Offscript? What are we doing at Revolt to try to fix that? I'm a big believer as a business leader that your values aren't just to be lived and expressed out loud. They should flow through your entire business model. So let's start talking about the ways where I think that we are supporting hip hop culture and black culture or black people through our business model. First and foremost, on the employee standpoint, our employee group is 80% people of color, black and brown, 50% women. As of last year, our employee group is the largest shareholders of Revolt and Offscript. So when we take this thing to become $1 billion company, the biggest beneficiaries will be the employees. That's important to me, right? These are people who have historically been left out of wealth creation. Wealth is proximal, so if you're not close to the person who's building Uber, the next Uber, you're not close to the person who's building the next Meta, you don't get to make money. And so this is an opportunity that people who look like me will never get. So one, we do it with our employee group. Two, we do it with our spend. Our biggest spend is our production spend. We count every dollar. Does it go into a black-owned company, woman-owned company, brown company, whatever? And we have goals. I don't care what's happening in the White House. We still got goals. We still going to make sure our people eat, right? And so my goal is to make sure at least 50% of the money flows back into not just, again, the talent that's in front of the camera, but the people who are actually creating and doing the work. One of the groups that I'm most proud of when it comes to that is my agency team, 6 Zeros. They actually submit every time they do a production, they submit what % of the money is going back to the culture. I promise you, I've never seen anything less than 80%, sometimes 95%, right? So we do it in the work and in our production dollars in the work that we do. 3, the entire shift from Revolt to Offscript. Revolt is a media company powered by creators who all come out of hip-hop culture. Offscript used Revolt as the proof point to then create a creator company that also has a world-class media ecosystem. So why did we think it was important to be creator first? Maybe we'll get that, but actually let me just hit the point. The dream with Offscript and being a creator company is to partner with creators to help them build the media companies of their dreams. So when I think about it, one of the biggest deals that we announced this year was Cameron. What are we doing with Cameron? Cameron had a show on YouTube that he had piloted 8, 9 episodes, right? We bring that show to Revolt, YouTube, linear, app, everywhere. Now people can find it in multiple places. It wasn't in audio. And so we put it on podcast. Now he's got one of the biggest shows in podcasts right now. He's making money off of that. Cameron is an incredible writer. He's working on movies. He's working on TV shows. We're partnering with him to figure out how to get those things picked up by third-party streamers and other distributors. He's got another show, It Is What It Is. We're in conversations to see, can we bring that to the... So everything that we're doing is looking at these people not as a show. The old model was to look at it as a show. Oh, this is a singular show. Bring that over here. Now we're looking at them and saying, you are a creator. We see your genius. We see you're brilliant. So how can we partner with you to make sure we build the media company of your dreams? And of course, we both benefit from the upside. So whether you're looking at the employee model, the production model, the creator talent model, in everything that we're doing, this value that the people who are creating the culture need to benefit from the economics of their genius flows through all of it.
Awesome.
10 to 15 years ago, social media, new emerging platforms, streaming, altered the landscape of creative industries. But in many ways, those have become the norm. And there are new platforms, modes of communication, storytelling, engagement, participation are emerging. And so I'm interested from you all's standpoint, what's shaking up the creative industries right now? How are you responding to that shakeup?
I can go first because you've been going first the whole time. Okay, so when I think about like the biggest thing that's shaking it up, I think about this thing that is very bittersweet. So the sweet spot about it is there are no more gatekeepers. 10, 20 years ago, people were limited because there were gatekeepers controlling who got to put music out, who got to put content out. And so you're limited to, honestly, the white person at the top of whatever company who gets to decide whether they see you or see value in the work that you're creating or not. So that's gone because anybody with the phone or a computer can put out whatever music they want. They can put out whatever content they want. So that's the blessing. everything in life comes with a blessing, also comes with a curse. So what's the flip side on the opposite? It's 1 billion pieces of content being posted every single day. It is impossible to break through. It is difficult to break through. Now the job is not, can you make it and get it out in the world? Everybody can make it and get it out in the world. Now the job is, can you be discovered? Can people find you? I believe that, if 1 billion pieces of content get put out every day, 500 million of those pieces of content are great pieces of content. And 99% of them will die not because they're not good, but because they will never get found and they will never get discovered. The second piece of what I think is like the curse or the bitter in it, and see if you guys relate to this. When I was growing up in hip hop, there was such distinct sounds. The way LA sounded was different than San Francisco sounded, where they were doing the hyphy was different than what New York sounded, was different than what Atlanta sounded, where they were doing. Now, because everybody's in the room, but the hard part before was getting in the room. Now, because everybody's in the room and everybody's listening to the same, it all sounds the same. We've lost that distinction. We've lost that regionality. We're losing so much of that locality. And so again, and then I think those things become really difficult to break through. So that's what I kind of see as like the blessing and the curse of the moment.
I think the biggest disruptor for our business right now is certainly AI. It's what everyone is talking about. It's the topic of every kind of article that's being written, and how we are approaching it is very much, in our mind, in my mind, AI is hip hop. It's remixing, it's sampling. That is how we are kind of taking that piece of transformation for our business and exploring it. We're exploring it in a way that I think is has been very challenging for the construct of our business. It is difficult to kind of play with something when you have legal restrictions, you've got, client restrictions. And so we have been working in developing a lot of kind of closed loop systems so that we can be experimental on behalf of our clients. Experimental, and I think a lot of people are using it, particularly in the creative world. A lot of other agencies are using it for kind of internal types of things. We're producing AI-driven work that lives out in the world, purely by taking kind of the ethos of hip hop and being really experimental, and as I said, kind of like sampling, remixing, and exploring kind of its uses. So it has been a disruption for our business. I think there's a lot of expectation that it's going to make things cheaper or it's going to make things faster. That's not necessarily the case, but it definitely allows for explosive creativity.
I think AI makes the problem that I spoke to worse as well. Because now people who didn't have the capability of writing 16 bars can go to a machine and go do, and it's going to spit it out, right? So the volume of content and the volume of bad content is only going to increase. And I'm a huge proponent of AI, and I'm a huge proponent of using things like ChatGPT. And so the piece that I'll say on that is what those things can never do is replace human genius, human creativity, human inspiration. And so,
absolutely, which is, I think, the reason why there's this perception that we're going to have fewer jobs, and in actuality, it is just changing the tenor of the job. And you're right, it's not, and even we have clients that are like, well, then this should be cheaper. It's like, yeah, it don't work like that. For that reason, because there's always going to be the human element that is going to be required to kind of take anything from mediocre to great.
One of the things I admire about both of you, but as well as both of you, your approaches to your positions, is that you all are, in my impression, very publicly facing. I mean, it's not often that you see executives representing their brands, their companies, but also representing their brands and companies and speaking to social issues, speaking directly to political issues. And it seems like both of you have also prioritized that in specific moments and on specific platforms in terms of speaking about your work as part of a longer continuum. And so I'm just interested in you all talking about that aspect of your work. Like, how do how do you approach that aspect of your work as both being a representative of the company, but also how the company speaks to larger issues, and as well, like what kind of imprint you want to make in your respective positions, in the time you have there?
Okay, so the same underlying theory and hypothesis that I have around how creator media is bigger than traditional media is the same underlying hypothesis that forces me to be out in the world. And that is that gone are the days where people want to follow institutions, they only want to follow people. And so if you look at my business, it's like, how many people today are running around with a BET, MTV, FX, ABC t-shirt? None of them. Look at the social media, compare social media between any of those companies I just named and Jason Lee's Hollywood Unlocked and Cardi B and Will Smith, and all of the people are always going to have more reach, more scale, more engagement, more influence, because that is the moment that we're in. We're in the moment where the people are what matter, where the people are what people are buying. And so what I've convinced myself of is gone are the days where you can be a CEO and sit in the corner behind the wall and just hope that your product is out there doing good work. In fact, I think it is the opposite. I think that today people no longer just want to buy from I'll say it this way. I think that today the job of the CEO is no longer just to make a good product and make good profit. People want to know that the company that I'm buying from is creating the world that I want to live in. And so I take those two thoughts and say, then it is my job to come out into the world and let people know what you are buying. When you buy Off Script, when you buy Revolt, when you watch our shows, when you support our network, what you are buying is this and the values that we have. And again, these values penetrate and permeate through every single aspect of our business model. So in my ideal world, y'all would never see me. When I was young growing up, my dream was to be the mob boss. Y'all know how the mob boss is
Never seen.
Never seen. So like, it's the Italian restaurant. Everybody out in front. Whoever you think is running the restaurant, it ain't the maid. It's the mob boss in the back with the pasta being thrown all over, and that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be the mob boss in the back. But 2025 has taught me that that's not the way that the world moves anymore. People don't buy institutions; they buy people. They buy the values of those institutions through the people who communicate to them. And so that's what drives the work that you see me doing by being more public and out in the world.
That's crazy, because we literally had the conversation earlier where I was like, no, I wanted to be behind the scenes. I never wanted a job where I was front and center. And yeah, that's, to me, that's not the easiest part of the job at all. I joined Burrell because I was on a mission. I have been in this business for 30 years, and I see us as a people having our culture kind of exported and us not really getting any of the credit. I see our agencies, Black-owned agencies, dying on the vine because other agencies, white-owned agencies, are the ones that are trusted because it is a relationship, so it is that they are trusted to speak to our people. And to speak to our people with a voice that comes from us. And so for me, it was the reason why I did it. And then if that's my motivation, then who better to talk about that than me? And I just then became, kind of anal about it and was like, well, no, I can't. All right, I told you what to say, but you didn't say it the way I wanted you to say it, so now I'm just going to get out there and I'm going to say it. So exactly. But it's, to me, the fun part is doing the work. The fun part is identifying the people who have been grinding and just haven't gotten the platform and giving them the platform. That's the beauty of the job. I think this is just sometimes the messenger becomes the message.
So my last question for you all is, the creative labor force has, obviously been hit very hard in recent years. I saw a report just the other day that was saying, production in Hollywood and Los Angeles there's less production happening than during the writers and actors strike of 2023, All right, you brought up MTV. I mean, MTV closed many of its non-U.S. channels. So my
R.I.P. MTV.
R.I.P. MTV. I know, you talk about what helped made us, as well as what helped make MTV was hip hop. But in any case, I'm wondering what advice would you all give to creative professionals about the current state of affairs, and as well, what insight would you want to leave with people who are outside of the creative industries about the importance of the creative economy's economic and social importance? What message would you want to leave with those folks?
I'll go first on the first question, and then when you go, I'll see if I have an answer to the second question. The first question is, what would I say to creators? Okay, this is what I was always taught growing up when it comes to careers. Very simple, follow the money. The money is moving. Like today, in my space, I think advertisers care about few things outside of streaming, social, the creator economy, sports, and retail media. Those are the things that are driving all of the growth. What didn't I say? Cable TV, digital publishing, print, radio, what'd you say? Out of home. Out of home, right? My answer to all creative professionals is follow the money.
Yeah. What was the second question?
The second question
I don't. Exactly. That's why. Because that's why you said I'll answer the first question.
The second question is for people, some of whom might be in this room, who don't work or don't operate in the creative industries. Mm-hmm. What message would you want to leave them with about the importance of the creative economy and why we should be supporting, boosting in the creative economy, especially with how many people are invested in creating and sharing their stories, their work?
Well, I mean, the whole premise of this is hip-hop, right? That's created by people that needed people to invest in them. Our focus right now is truly on how do we understand, reach, and connect with people. And then how do we do that in a way that supports their ambitions, their dreams, their creativity. And so I would say that it's critical if we want to see another 50 years of hip-hop, if we want to see in what the next hip-hop-like thing is, we have to invest in the people and grow the people that are actually going to make that happen.
And where I go to media. I think that media is the most powerful industry in the world. It is simply the industry of ideas, and ideas are the things that move the world. They shift the world, they change the world, they shape the world. I haven't done this walk in a long time, but I'm going to do I have a very strong theory of how we got here from black people. If you ever look at the world, I always feel like black people are the most oppressed people globally. Like, it doesn't matter what country they're in, everybody is beating them up. Why did that happen? In the late 1400s, there's a historian, Gomez de Zurara, Ibrahim Kendi, who wrote a great book called Stamp, calls him the world's first racist. Why does he call him the world's first racist? Because he's the first person to write a book and to put in media, in content, that black people are savages, that they are third-class citizens, that they were lower than everybody else. On top of that, he makes it missionary work, God's work, to go save these savages and go save these people. And he puts it in a book. And there's, Ibrahim Kendi says, there's no New York Times back then. But if there was, this thing pops up on the New York Times. And so everybody across Europe reads this book. And then what do? They all get on boats and they all go to Africa to do God's work. An idea. Okay, fast forward now. You come to 1619, the first black people come to America. And we don't say, hey, let them be like everybody else, building on their own plots, doing what. We say, no, they're savages. They're less than. They're slaves. We make them slaves. Same idea. 1776, we say all men are created equal. We're free, except for who? Black people. One idea back in the 1400s, powering everything that we do. 1880s, the Berlin Conference, all of the European leaders sit down and they all chop Africa up into these little pieces of country that we now know and see as Africa. And they colonize them and they make them theirs. Why? Because they see those people as less than. They're savages. They're not like us because of this book. Fast forward, Jim Crow, civil rights. The lady who clutches her purse in the elevator, not because she's got experience with the black man and because there's an idea that was deposited back in the 1400s that is still now powering the way that she thinks and sees the world. Fast forward, 2025, 2024, immigration, Haitians are eating cats. It's all driven by the same idea that was put in the book in the late 1400s. And so if we want to be people who shift the world, if we want to be people who shape the world, then you're going to have to get into this media game. You're going to have to get into this content game because this is the way that ideas spread and create impact in the world.
And also impact on us, because it is not just others. It is what the real destructive piece of it is when we begin to internalize those messages. And so the only way to dispel that is to invest in, to support media that is a positive perception of us, that is, why we are here out on the stage actually representing kind of what the positivity and what the actual representation of us is.
Thank you for that. We now have time for Q&A from the audience, so I would welcome anyone who has a question to come to the microphone and pose a question as well. If you don't feel comfortable posing a question, I think you can also use that number, text it.
Cool. Thank you all. So we'll be moving to the live Q&A for online and in person. If you have any questions in person, please join me stage right. But we're going to start off with an online question. An intriguing theme that I am hearing is the fact that while hip-hop as a business has generated significant revenue and wealth, the Black community has not experienced economic mobility as a result. One correlate for upward economic mobility is the presence of social capital as well as education. How might hip-hop deepen its impact on social capital and educational attainment?
How does it deepen its impact on education and
Social capital?
And social capital.
Do we know what they mean by social capital? Doesn't matter. I'll see if I can find something for education.
Well, I can say this just in terms of education. There are a number of different institutions you can find throughout the U.S. and beyond the U.S. who center hip-hop aesthetics ethos in their practices of education and pedagogy. Goodness, I think one of the things at least I'll add to the conversation about hip-hop's, if you think about what has created bridges of solidarity and communication throughout the world, hip-hop has been probably one of the leading kind of institutions to create. I mean, you will find people who don't speak the same language, but who both connect, not even just through sound, but through the various ways that hip-hop narrative speaks to conditions of inequity, injustice, as well as identity. And there are a number of institutions that have been hip-hop focused that have prioritized that in terms of education, as well as institutions that are also navigating really challenging times, I'll say right now, with defunding of programs like that throughout the U.S. So I think one of the things we haven't talked about, which has been central to hip-hop's ethos, is knowledge. When people talk about hip-hop, knowledge has been a central facet of hip-hop, both intergenerational knowledge, but also hip-hop as a site where knowledge is produced collectively. And that's one of the things I think has been central and key, that you have people together who are producing knowledge that has shaped the world and shaped people's interaction with the world.
I think also understanding, and we talked about a little bit about this, the difference between hip-hop and hip-hop culture. The impact of hip-hop culture beyond just the music is immense and needs its proper credit. So whether we're talking about fashion, whether we're talking about art, like all of those things kind of were birthed from the music. And are now just a part of culture, and I think are in many times are taken advantage or are not really, the impact of which are not really understood.
Yeah, that's where I go. I don't think that we need to deepen its impact. I think we need to give credit for its impact.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Like I can look at classes and colleges where people are learning about hip hop. I can look at my social feed, even just over the last 2 weeks, the number of little 5-year-old kids I saw doing the ABCs to some version of hip hop, people who are learning how to tie the shoes to some version of hip hop. If by social capital we meant social justice or social impact, you know, Revolt has had a big flag in the social justice and the social impact space. Why? Because I believe that every brand, to be meaningful, has to have a purpose and has to have some sort of mission that they jump on. Why did we jump on social justice? Because social justice is embedded in all of what hip hop has been doing since the beginning of time. And so I don't think for me it's about deepening its impact. I think it's about recognizing, appreciating, and giving it its due credit.
Understanding the vastness of it, yeah.
And I would say it's for those who ask that about hip hop, enhancing their relationship to it. Because like you said, by enhancing your understanding of it, you'll find, like you said, it's been at the core of hip hop's ethos from the start. In many ways, it still represents that. People who don't have easy access to certain kinds of resources, institutions, cultivating alternative kind of pathways in order to express themselves, as well as express histories, narratives that often aren't at the center of mainstream media or news or even our education systems, you know, formally.
Yeah, I mean, I think making a way out of no way is the essence of hip-hop.
Thank you. Moving to our first in-person question.
You have to hold it? Okay. Just the mic. Well, thank you for being here. My name is Tony Madrigal. I'm a recovering Modesto City Council member. And I've always had this dream of, like, having my city be, like, the next, like, Motown or whatever. And when I was in, like, community college in the 90s at Modesto Junior College, there was an African-American gentleman who spoke at one of our classes about the origin of Motown, and he said that they invested in the public schools music programs and that, you know, a bunch of kids learning how to play and that's how it was birthed. And so, you know, fast forward to, like, when I served on the council from 2013 to 2022, man, I tried to, like, connect with people to want to do a nonprofit, to do a music studio, and it just, things would fizzle because it's all, you know, there's no funding. And then I would hear exciting stories about, was it Kendrick Lamar that sponsored the Compton High School, like, music? Like, and I'm like, oh my God, they're so ahead of us, and, you know, why can't we get something like that? I don't know, I guess maybe it's just, I just was curious, like, what would it take for, like, a community like ours to become, like, do we have to do the whole music program investing thing, or is there a modern version of that? I know you said media.
I feel like, again, let's go beyond the music, right? So I think, yes, investing in music programs are phenomenal, but I look at creators as, like, the MCs of today. And so how are you investing in kind of media programs, media training, those kinds of things? How are you investing in art programs? I mean, there are, from a hip-hop culture standpoint, there are seminal artists, black, brown, whatever, that are influenced by hip-hop. I don't think it needs to just be in the music space. I think you can broaden the aperture of the kinds of programs that kids are going to be interested in. Not every kid is going to have musical ability, but they may have a fly fit and be able to, you know, and be away with a sewing machine and be able to put something together. So I would say to really open the aperture of what the culture actually is, and you can diversify the things that you're investing in. All money doesn't need to go into music programs.
We have two people on stage, hip-hop and finance, hip-hop and market. I mean, you think about the importance of finance, and as well as cultivating different kinds of financial models that have been able to, certain hip-hop labels to take off. Marketing. I mean, to some degree, we would not have the same relationship to hip-hop as a culture without folks who understood the importance of creating a narrative and an image and a look and a feel. You know, how does an image represent a feeling? So, yeah, I think to your point, there are a variety of ways that you can create programming that can tap into the different kind of creative sensibilities of the people around you. And I would say not even just children. I'd say people of any age group, you know? Thank you.
Hi, Tracy with Californians for the Arts, and I want to build on Captain Modesto's question, which is really about public policy, because California's creative economy is one of the largest and most influential in the world, but we're 32nd in the nation in per capita spending on the arts into local communities. So that policy issue and public policy. And I guess a question we always have as the advocacy organization for the state is how do we build bridges and solidarity with those folks in industry to get public policy behind things, especially in the creator economy, because so many of our creators, we exist in the gig economy, and there's little to no resources, support, things like that. So just wanted to know how to bridge across the for-profit, nonprofit, individual artists and big industry divide to make change in our state, if you've got thoughts on that.
I can give an answer while y'all think.
Yeah.
Okay. And it may not be your favorite answer, but I'll give you the first thing that came to my mind. So whenever people ask me a question about policy, I go to, again, my hypothesis on the world. How people see you is how they treat you. If you go back to the narratives I just gave you about black people since the beginning of the time, why are the policies for black people so bad? Because of the way they see us. What is my theory of change for how to fix that? You have to control the narrative. Whatever the narrative is in Stockton, whatever the story is here, perhaps it's about finding a way to tell a new narrative, a new story, something that gets people excited, that allows people to see you differently. Because once they see you differently, then the policy changes. When they see black women as super strong beings, and as super strong beings, they're not going to pass the healthcare legislation to make sure that we're taking care of black women and making sure that they're not dying while they're giving birth. But if we can change the way that they see them, then we can get them to shift the policy. And so I don't have all the answers. I'm buying my colleagues time to see if they have a better answer. But for me, whenever I think of policy, I go to what is the narrative? What is the current story? And how can I shift that? Because policy always follows the story that people are buying into.
And then I would say also follow the money, quite frankly. I think money is a motivator. Unfortunately, it is the main motivator. And when you're thinking about kind of this conversation that we had today, hip-hop is a $15 billion business. A $15 billion business driven by black and brown people. There is money in them hills. And so I do think that showing kind of I'm in a business where clients want to see growth, right? And being able to connect what your mission is to the actual numbers oftentimes is more of a motivator than the heart.
All right, thank you. So we have question for one more question. So we have time for one more question. As a reminder, you could always chat with our panelists after the conversation.
Hello, my name is Pamela Jones. I am an entrepreneur here in Stockton, but I am also a board member officer for a nonprofit organization called Nzinga Incorporated.
I'm sorry?
Nzinga Incorporated, and what we focus on is advocacy for black students in our region. One of the things that we did last year, and actually for the past 2 years, we have a program called Black is Lit. It's like a literature program to encourage students to read. One of the things that we incorporated in that is the poetry of his name is not coming.
Langston Hughes.
Nope. He's local. He's actually from Vallejo. He's a rapper.
E40.
LaRussell. It's
LaRussell. Oh, I love LaRussell.
It is LaRussell. And the students caught on to it really well. And I agree in the comment about changing the narrative. And that's one of the things that we at Nzinga are trying to do with that. The challenge is the notarization and to show that this is actually being done. The work is being done in your community because we have not been recognized for it in our community at all. We've been recognized in other communities in the country and also globally for the work that we've done with Black is Lit. So how do we expand on getting letting people know that the narrative, we're controlling the narrative and we need to expand on that.
In this city or broader? Because you said you're getting some love
Actually,
broader.
I want to
so-
say on both ends.
And then I have one more question, which I wish I would have asked my friend before she just left and did all that rambling that I just did. Why do you think, I'm like a big believer that you got to understand the root cause problem. Right. Why do you think you aren't getting the coverage that you deserve?
That was going to be my question.
Like, why do you think people even in your own city aren't seeing you?
In my opinion, they don't want to know. They're gatekeepers. I'm just going to be transparent on it. They're gatekeepers. I'm not going to, they exist. I don't know who they are, but when you come up to do certain things, there are roadblocks. So to me, roadblocks equals gatekeepers.
I don't know. There are no gatekeepers today, meaning that there are gatekeepers. The gatekeepers you're up against are real. What I want to say is, but there's a billion other people, and the world is now global. So if the people here aren't seeing you, my thing is, how do you start to build with the people outside of this city that can see you? I think even for me, I don't know. Here's what's really on my heart. I don't really want to ramble. I own a media company. We cover people all the time editorially. Give me your information. We'll cover you. Like, people will cover you. Find them, meet them, build, connect, whatever that is. I'll be the first one. So make sure, this is Bronte. Raise your hand. Make sure Bronte gets your email address. We'll interview somebody at your organization and we'll give you coverage for Revolt. We'll start there. Oh, and then that's also a thing. So there's definitely a strategy in PR where you trade up the ladder. So what people would have said is, like, you try to get local coverage here in the newspaper. Then you take this to a CBS or an ABC and you say, see, they were covering this over here. And then you get it on CNN and then you take that and you go to somebody globally. I'll be the first chink in that ladder, right? And then it's up to you to go trade it into more and bigger things.
And then I would say what I would counsel you on your focus being a human focus, and the people that are actually in your program and the talent that is actually in the program, and figure out a way to begin to platform them. So whether that is developing a social footprint, leveraging their social footprint on behalf of your program. People don't always care about mission, but they're more likely to care about people. And so I think that the people, it sounds like you have extremely talented folks in your group. Those are your biggest assets. And so whether it's the opportunity that you're given on Revolt, if it's opportunity that you're given on a local news station, it should always be about the people in your program, not necessarily the mission. They are the living embodiment of the mission.
I love that. And so what I wanted to say to piggyback off of that from a PR strategy is, like, just look for the sexy. Like, and again, it's kids, so you know I don't really mean sexy, right? But it's like, where is the sexy in the thing? And then you build around that. What is the thing that's going to get the most attention? What's the thing that's going to tug at people's heartstrings? Find the sexy, and which you're probably right. It's probably anchored in, maybe not, it's probably anchored in people, maybe not all of them, right? Maybe there's some breakout stars. Maybe, find the sexy and build around that.
Tara, Detavio, I want to thank you both for a fantastic conversation. We also want to thank Zócalo Public Square and California Forward for co-presenting this program. You'll be able to find a summary of the program on Zócalo's website in the coming days, as well as interviews with all the panelists. Please subscribe to Zócalo's newsletter, podcast, social media for more great conversations. We invite everyone to our in-person, we invite everyone who's part of this audience to join us for a reception hosted by San Joaquin Partnership. And it's also featuring a live performance by hip-hop group Rhymosaurs at the Banner Island Ballpark, which is a short walk from the venue. So we, as Tara said, we can get our steps in for the day. All right. And with that, please join me in thanking our guests. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Taj.
Thank
Appreciate you. Thank our moderator.
All right.
Thank you guys for having us.
Have a great one.